Hey folks, Troy Dooley, the Beachside CEO, and we are here again at Maple Street Biscuit Company. And I tell you what, love these guys here. Matter of fact, I was just talking with Rebecca, the community leader at this establishment, and she had a big smile on her face because today, Friday, in the off season, and that's kind of where we're at right now, is that off season. She's slow, but I mean, there are families here, businessmen here today. It's just phenomenal. Maple Street has been such a blessing to us because they allow us to do the show live. I do, for legal purposes, let me state that all of my views and opinions are not the views and opinions of Maple Street Biscuit Company or any of the other great supporters that we have. And I tell you, one great supporter is Bliss Business. Richard Bliss Brooks, all of that team, phenomenal. He's been a coach of mine, a personal mentor, a confidant, if you will, for a couple of decades now. So it's just been awesome to have, him supporting this. I mean, you can go over there and get some of the greatest training in direct sales of anywhere out there. So you don't want to miss that. And of course, Freddie Sheets, my tattoo artist down here at Allen's Cool Ink. If you're on the Emerald Coast, you're looking to get a new tat, you're looking for a cover-up, you need some piercings, they are the place to go. That's Allen's Cool Ink. Ask for Freddie, tell him Troy sent you. That'd be an awesome time. Hey, I want to cover today something that I think we all talk about from time to time. We all wonder about what creates a good company or a great company. What allows a company or a team, if you will, to go from a legacy to iconic? Why do some companies we read about in books and they're gone? And why are other companies we're reading about case studies that we use in universities and business school? That's the question. I'm studying right now a variety of companies in the direct sales, at private companies, public companies. Last night I was on the phone with a tremendous businessman. He was on his way home from his day at work. This was about 8:30 last night. He took the time out to give me a call. And the reason I wanted to talk to him is because he has created something that was a one-man operation 30 years ago that now has several locations in the state of Texas. They have several entities, law firms, software companies, formulation companies, manufacturers, distribution, you name it. He has created a one-stop about his operation, what made him tick. So he was just great to give me a call back. He had just gone to help a company, had a company come to him that were floundering. They needed help. And he said, look, let me help you out. And he did that. And so I wanted to get his mindset. I'm also looking at some pubcos and looking at the common denominator there. What happens when the founders are either pushed out of the company or they leave for whatever reason? And there's some great historical foundation there. Some of these companies, when that happens, continue to stay close to their ethos and they move forward. Some of them don't. Any names today, I'm going to be talking about them in the near future. But I started looking at some denominators. What really helps this? What creates this? And this is what I've come up with. At the end of the day, no matter what industry you might say you're in, no matter what that space, that niche is, it's all about the people. And I mean all the people, the internal people, the external people, your support staff, regulators, I don't care what, it's all about the people. And the companies that I've seen who are succeeding on their way to become an iconic miss the boat. Remember that it's all about the people. It's not about diluting your history, wiping out your history, pretending your history doesn't exist. It's about embracing everyone who's been around your company, everyone that's around your family. I don't care what, this works no matter who it is. What I'm about to share will help you flip it to a whole new level in your personal life or your business life. But if you forget about the people that helped you along the way, if you forget about your founders for whatever reason because they're gone, if you forget about your questions that were involved there and you wipe it out, then there's no way that you can become an iconic brand. Because what I've looked at is every person that we might look at as famous or rich or influential, always keep it about the people. Every company, the leadership that's in those companies, whether they're a startup to hundreds of years old, never forget about the people. And that is the key. Number one, you've got to know who you are. If you're a company founder, if you're an executive team, then you have to know who you are, not the company, you as an individual. See, if your integrity, if your ethics, if your character is cracked, if you're still struggling trying to figure out what do I believe in, what don't I believe in, then you're going to flounder. You're not going to be able to take your company from a legacy company to an iconic company. Instead, it's going to implode on itself. If you're a second set of executives in a company, the founders are now gone and you're here leading it, you're trying to figure it out. If you don't know who you are, and if you didn't know who the leader was, why did they create the company? What do they stand for? You're not going to become an iconic brand. Now let me pull this into personal branding for a minute. If you don't know who you are and you're trying to be everything to everybody, you're going to fail. Because if you don't know who you are, if you cannot articulate who you are, what you stand for, then you're not going to become the influencer that you want to become. The other day I did a post. It was to realize that every great epic movie that you've ever watched, every great story you've ever read, the hero wasn't really what the story was about. It was about you need to know why you're here. Think about that. How many times in marketing, sales, the religious community, I don't care what it is, you hear people say, why? Why are you here? What is it that you're standing for? Why? So many times when companies launch, they don't have a clue what I'm talking about. Matter of fact, when I do the Direct Selling Edge conferences and I start talking about why, I start talking about the culture, I start talking about the people, I will have my sessions sign up for the breakouts because people are trying to understand, wait a minute, we never gave that a thought. We've only been thinking about profits. We've only been thinking about comp plans. We've only been thinking about our product. Why? Why did your company get founded? I was talking with Al Bala the other day over at Manatech, CEO, phenomenal leader. And as we were talking, I said, Al, why was Manatech launched? See, Al is like second generation of the company. Lester was the founder. Sam has gone on and is doing other great things. He's not part of that company anymore. I said, you guys got to get back to your ethos. You've got to know why the company exists. And I took it even deeper and said, Al, you've got to know why you exist. Why are you at Manatech? I'm studying another company right now. Texas has got some great companies, guys, and they've got such colorful backgrounds. And I'm studying a company right now that we're going to be reporting on here in the next couple of weeks, I think. And as I was talking to people that are in that company and no longer in that company, and I'm digging deep and say, what is it that launched this company? I had the opportunity last week to talk to the founder of that company. He had just come back into the United States from a trip. And I said, why did you launch this company? Why do you focus on your purpose? And he shared this with me. And then I looked at some of the people that are inside that company and I realized they don't get that. This is a company that is in some momentum right now. It's kind of cool to watch. But I thought they won't be able to go from what Jim Collins, they won't be able to go from legacy to iconic if they can't get back that why. Now, in a personal brand, the same thing is true. Why are you doing what you do? Why do you feel called to do what you do? Maybe you're an influencer in the health and wellness arena. Why is health and wellness so important to you? I had a client a few years ago and they launched a health and wellness company, and I'm in the boardroom working and I look up and the CEO of the company, health and wellness company, is out smoking a cigarette. Disconnect. Okay, you cannot have a disconnect. I'm proud to say this gentleman is just an awesome individual. He learned some stuff personally, changed his health. His company's exploding today. It's wonderful to see. They could go on to become an iconic brand. But think about that. If you're not doing, if you don't know your why, if you don't know why you exist, why you're in business, why you want to do what you do, you're not going to make it. Let me rabbit trail just for a second. Why are you married? Why do you want that man or woman in your life? Why do you want to have kids? Think about this. Don't be doing anything in life because somebody else is doing it, because you think you're supposed to be doing it that way, because that's what's always been done. Know what your why is. Number 3, think independently. See how I segued right into that one? Okay, you have to be thinking independently. If you're a company owner and you say, well, man, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to dominate. I'm going to use direct sales. I could use hospitality industry too. Both of these are parallel industries. If you're out here looking at all the other competition and you're trying to make decisions based on what you think your competitor's doing or based on what you think is the up and coming trend because you see another company that's just having some passionate rise in an industry, you will fail. You will become a legacy company. You'll become a Zango. You'll become a Monavie. You'll become a Parts America. You'll become all these brands that we used to have. What happened to Tab? These are brands and companies that no longer exist because they independently. They kept looking around at what they thought was their competition. Your competition is always inside of you. Think of it this way. You have no competition. You are your competition. And that can be good or bad. Okay, that's the way you've got to look at it, because you're constantly competing against yourself, whether it's a business or whether it's personal. And if you are not focusing on thinking independently, thinking about what's best for your company, then you're not going to succeed at it. Number 4, I believe this is the foundational floor in anything. You have to build trust. And once it's built, you can't lose that. Here's what I see a lot in corporate America, and then we'll talk about the personal branding side. Excuse me a minute. No, that's not placement of the sponsor, okay? Well, it kind of was. Here's what I'm talking about. If you've built trust in a company, the founders, your purpose, everything's awesome. And internally, there's cracks in the foundation, the character, there's fighting amongst the partners, whatever the case may be, then you're going to lose that trust eventually, and here's why. Founders leave, purposes do not. If the new executive team that is there is more focused on profits, they're more focused on shareholder value, they're more focused on bottom line, they're more focused on margins, and they're not focused on the people, they're not focused on building the trust, they're not trust, then you will fail. You will never, ever be able to build an iconic company. Ever. Trust is built through the fire. Trust is built when there are challenges facing the company and you're honest and you're straightforward and you don't spin it and you don't sugarcoat it. You tell the truth. It could be in your corporate filings, it could be on stage, doesn't matter, public or private, no, doesn't matter. Same thing rings true personally. Let me bring this home for a minute. A lot of you guys know that one of my well, they were our largest client back in 2012, 2013 was a company called Rex Venture Group who owned a retail brand called Zeek Rewards. Long story short, Zeek Rewards became known as the world's largest Ponzi scheme based on the amount of people that had joined it. Over 1 million people in less than 24 months joined this worldwide. They made, I think, close to $1 billion in this. They were a client of mine. Company goes down. I get a subpoena from Washington, D.C., from this little agency known as the Security. Long story short, I have a great attorney. We go in, we talk to them, we explain everything that they want to know. We're very straightforward. I have nothing to hide. I wasn't in the company. I wasn't part of the company. I was the outside consultant at the company. I ended up with a cease and desist, not to advertise, do public relations work, anything like that, with any company, let alone a Ponzi scheme, but with any company without fully disclosing, because what they said was I did not disclose on national radio that I was getting paid a commission, and I didn't. I had an NDA, I had a bunch of stuff. Tom asked me a very pointed question. Listen to me. I split hairs. No. It was a small infraction. I paid a $3,600 fine or a $6,000 fine, something like that. I went on with my life. No problems. It was embarrassing. I learned a lesson. We've talked about the lesson personally, publicly and personally and privately. It's no big deal. I had a client this week call and say, Troy, we can't get merchant processing because you have a securities and exchange settlement and you're one of our consultants. And the merchant processor wants an explanation. Okay, not a problem. The attorneys provide all that. Here's where I'm going with this. Had I tried to hide that, had I pretended it didn't exist, if I wanted to never talk about it, I would break trust. All my clients know about this. You guys know about this. It's public. I don't hide anything. Okay, I have a lot of closets. I got a lot of skeletons in those closets. But I open the closet doors 24/7, not just on Halloween. So everybody gets to see my dysfunctionalness. Okay, you have to build trust. You have to keep trust. The only way to keep trust is not to have secrets. I'm not talking about sharing all your dirty laundry. I'm talking about what's important. You share it. You just go forward. You do it right. That's the key. Number 5, listen to what I'm about to say. Listen for the truth. Listen for, that's the key word, the truth. Don't try to make the truth up yourself. Don't spin the facts to try to make a new truth. Don't pretend that's not the reality. Listen for the truth. When critics come and ask questions, don't try to stifle those questions. Listen to them. Now, in the past, I've not felt this way. And there's websites out there, oh my gosh, those websites suck. They never say anything positive about anybody. I started learning something about this. We started realizing there's always an ounce of truth in a pound of criticism. And when you start looking for the truth, when you start listening for the truth, you actually are able to look at and find cracks in the foundation of trust and fix those. See, when you fix that, it's powerful. A few years ago, I was doing some, well, it's what my baby girls all say, hey, Daddy's acting like he's 17-year-old Troy again. And I was out here at one of our shopping malls jumping around on walls and goofing off, and I jumped off of a 9-foot wall and broke my heel in 3 spots. It was painful. If you know, I mean, it just sucks is what it does. Here's what I learned from my orthopedic doctor. He said, Troy, when we press the heel back together and we bind it and you leave it in the cast for about 6 months, here's what will happen. It will be stronger than your other heel because the body, once it's been broken, strengthens the calcium deposits in the bone more. But what? Think about this. When you listen for truth, when you listen for truth, when you fill your cracks in the trust factor, here's what happens. Your foundation of trust becomes stronger. Had I hidden the fact that I have a former Ponzi scheme, and I shove that away and I never talk about it, and a client has an issue like they had this week trying to get merchant processing, you think I'm going to stay on as a consultant? No, they're going to terminate my butt. I had a situation, I hired a third-party consultant to do some video work for a client and to do some website stuff, and she was disappointed. I could see it, I could hear it. And I offered to her, I said, look, I'm just going to pay you back the money. This is my bad. We're going to have to do something else. And she said, Troy, it's not about the money, but let's get it figured out. When you are honest and truthful, even when you're in your weakness, you will fill the cracks in the foundation. So always be listening for the truth. Number 5 or number 6. Excuse me. You've got to be accountable. You want to take your company from good to great, or from legacy to iconic. You want to take your influence, your personal brand. How about this? You want to take your relationship with your spouse and with your kids to the next level? Be accountable. In the littlest things to the big, people they laugh at me sometimes because they say, dude, don't you believe in privacy? I do. There's a lot of private stuff in my life. I don't have much privacy, if any, with my wife. See, my wife can pick up her phone, her iPhone, any day of the week. She can click on my name and she can hit locate and she can see where I'm at in any part of the world. Because I always want to be accountable to her. I don't want to be someplace where I told her I wouldn't go, or with somebody that I wouldn't be. I want her to know exactly where I'm at. Now, on an island like we live on, heck, man, she can just show up anytime. Is that a small thing? Absolutely, it's a small thing, but it's a big thing to a spouse who says, I just want to know where you're at. I want to feel close. It's not because she's thinking about doing anything. She wants to feel close to me when we're separated. You have to be accountable to your team in the office. Founders have to be accountable. Remember, the name of this is it's all about the people. We all have to be accountable. If you're an independent rep, if you're a franchisee or something like that, you have to be accountable to the brand. If you're on a team, you've got to be accountable to your team members. When I was in the Marine Corps, we were all accountable to each other. When that squad went out, where those 5 guys were at any given time, and we had each other's back, nobody gets left behind. That's not just a military phrase. That's not just a flippant deal. Everybody comes home. And you should feel that same way with your business. I'm going to tell you that right now. Whether it's the customer, whether it's the rep, whether it's the employee, whether it's your support staff, whether it's a contractor, everybody is accountable to everybody, and everybody comes home. Because here's what's going to happen. When you're trying to hide stuff, when you're not accountable, whether you're a public company or a private company, you will crash and burn. If you're not minor issues, you will crash and burn. And you don't want to crash and burn. You want to move that forward. Number 7, you've got to take action. When you know this stuff and you're applying it, then you've got to take action. If you see cracks, you got to take action and fix it. Now, here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to take action to cover up your sins, period. If your company has an accounting issue, if you've not filed the right paperwork, if you're a pubco, and here's what I hear with the pubcos that I work, except for a couple, they're not on the big boards. They're what we call the OTC. They're penny stocks. They've got a whole different level of stuff. They're given a lot more leeway, and that's what I hear. Troy, we're a penny stock. We don't have to worry about that. We can fix that down the road. We'll take care of this later. Seriously? You gonna tell that to your spouse too? Not. You got to fix it right now. You got to take action right now. When you find it, you fix it. If you're a pubco, you should have a risk intelligence strategy put together that follows the purpose of your company. And you say, here's exactly what we're going to do. Bam, bam, bam. Tylenol may be one of the best examples of this. 1982, just a few people die in Chicago. It's known now as the Tylenol murders because Tylenol had been tainted. And because the Tylenol company believed in the purpose statement that their founder, I think back then it was 50, 60 years earlier, had created. They pulled all of the products nationwide. Today, that was, if not billions of dollars. They didn't say, oh, that's just in Chicago. It hasn't happened anywhere else. No, they took action, and they took it fast, and they made statements. And today, because of that, we have safety lids. We have all this other stuff. We don't have these issues anymore. Think about this. When you have an issue, take action. Don't try to cover it up. Don't try to pretend it didn't exist. I go back to Zeke Rewards. I got hit. As soon as the settlement became public, I waited 24 hours and looked at all the critics, and then I started responding on the critics' websites. I didn't respond to all the dull, negative, disillusioned crybabies. I responded to the intelligent questions, answered them, apologized, took the hits where they were due, and then I went and did a live on my own websites. Today, I have some really good relationships with the critics that covered that story because they found out that I wouldn't lie about it. This is what happened, it was my bad, and I take action. Number 8, face the challenges. This is huge, guys. You cannot pretend the challenges aren't there. You know, if you've got a company and you've got a product, Jeff Mack tells me a story back when he was in the business, in building a business. He was on stage, they had a new product, he ripped the product open, and fruit flies flew out of the product. It was awful. Bad. You know what? They faced that challenge, they moved forward, the company went ahead and grew. I mean, how do you not? How do you bypass that when you're right there on stage and all that crap's happening? Think about that for a minute. You can't. So just face the challenges. Most of the time what we think's going to happen isn't going to happen anyway. So just drive home with it. Don't pretend. Don't fake it till you make it. Don't. Here's the worst one. Don't think that because you're not talking about it, because you got your head in the sand and your butt in the air, that nobody else is talking about it. I get phone calls constantly from people. Last night, I get off the phone. I'm watching, I don't know, Rocky Mountain Christmas, I think, on Hallmark. My text goes off. And the CEO of a company asking me a question about another company. It's not public information what's going on with that company. They came to me because they figured I'd know. I text back real quick their answer. Somebody is talking about what's going on. So don't pretend that you don't have any challenges. Face the challenges. Right now we see a lot of FDA, I started to say interference. And I don't know that interference is the word I want to use there, but it's the one that comes to mind. Because when you're a pioneering company, when you're out there trying to do something, what happens is you will ride the edge. So you're going to try some new ingredient, you're going to try a new formula, you're going to do something. But when the FDA comes in and shuts down that product line, if they question or ban that ingredient, don't not talk about it, don't change the formula. And don't tell anybody because the results are going to be different, which takes us back to you losing trust and everything else. When you face challenges, just talk about it. Face the music, talk about it, roll forward. Richard Brooke is really good at that. He went through a situation a few years ago, and he asked for some advice, and I gave him the advice, and he drove that advice home. Going through a situation, and he called and said, Troy, I don't know anything about this type of person, this type of dynamic. Can you give me feedback? And I said, yes, here's what I do, and here's how I do it. And he did it. Always face the challenge, don't pretend. That's what you got to do. Number 9, practice leadership. Now that actually might sound simplistic, if you will, but listen to this. In the military, we have a phrase that we use. Practice till you can't get it wrong. Period. It's not practice till you get it wrong. Practice till you can't get it wrong. When you're practicing leadership, you should be practicing till you can't get it wrong. Remember, it's all about the people. And if you're not focused on that, if you're not focused on becoming a better leader, if you're not focused on putting it into practice, if you're not focused on staying in your wheelhouse, not flipping out somewhere else, it's not going to work. So you constantly have to be doing that. You constantly have to focus on where you're supposed to be. And number 10, and this is sometimes the one that we forget about. It's not the one that isn't there when we start. It's what we forget about. You've got to dare to dream. You cannot let the minute issues. You can't let the busyness of the day. You can't allow that product launch to get in the way, and you forget to dream. See, every influencer, every individual, every company has been built on a dream. If the founder's gone, you better go learn what that dream was. So you can create a new dream, but you can't get rid of the old dream. You got to build upon that dream. And some of you say, "Oh no, Troy, that's not accurate." I see companies change their brands all the time. They do. They change brands, logos, and all that. But let me give you an example. The Procter & Gamble company huge company, all these brands that are out there, their purpose is to make a difference in people's lives. That's not just a tagline, that's just not a flippant answer, that's not just about the products they deliver. Let's look at a brand that maybe half the guys and gals listening here don't use, and the other half will laugh and say, why is he talking about this? But Procter & Gamble owns a brand called Always. As a dad with lots of daughters and a wife, I've learned what the Always brand represents. So I'm at the store and there's a need once a month for me to really go out and make sure that the women in the family have what they need. And I'm looking at the Always brand. And I'm just thinking it's for girls. Another brand that Procter & Gamble owns is Pampers. So I'm gonna use both of these for a minute. Funny how they all involve a woman. Think about this for a minute. To us, that's just diapers. To us, that's just feminine wears. But they dared to dream a dream. And they used those two products to change the world. See, the Always brand has a battle cry, literally a battle cry, like a girl. When you hear that phrase, it can be all kinds of stuff. You know, and how many times in our life have we said, man, you hit like a girl, you run like a girl, stop acting like a girl. Does that sound positive? Does that sound negative? See, in the Always company, every time a product's sold, they put educating girls in third world countries that when they start on their period, they haven't become cursed. See, in a lot of third world countries, when a girl starts her period, she goes home and never finishes her education. And they've taken a stance on that. With their Pampers brand, they take money from every sale. And they go and they inoculate little children for the normal, everyday stuff that can kill them. They teach parents about malnutrition, about making sure their babies have enough nutrition in their body. Sometimes we have to dare to dream and remember why our company or why we started what we started. Because if we stop dreaming, if we stop realizing we can change a part of the world, we will never watch our brand, ourselves, our business become iconic. We will never have the influence that we should have had to change the world. That's the key. Guys, stay humble, stay strong, and you've been listening to a voice in Main Street America.